We are live. This is the Clean Hits Hockey Podcast. We're going to be taking some of your questions as you join in. We got yourself, myself, the Clean Hits host, Brad. We got Corey here. Trent may be a corporate shill right now. I think he's trying to find his way to sneak off and join us as well. So he may be joining. Unfortunately, Kenny cannot. But we got loads and loads of Mammoth content to talk about. Obviously, Trent and Kenny both had their kind of emergency stream last night when the JJ Peterka trade was announced. And we're going to be kind of dissecting it a little bit more now that the dust has settled. But obviously, also, we have the NHL draft tomorrow. So plenty of talk about for what to expect. Kind of what we hope to see and what may be going down. But Corey, how you doing?
Still kind of blown away by yesterday's trade. Admittedly, I don't know a ton about the player just because don't watch a lot of Sabres, because why would you? But what I remember thinking about JJ Peterka is if you go back to the CHL import draft, he was selected out of Germany by the London Knights, and basically anything the London Knights want, the London Knights get. But he didn't go to London. He just stayed and continued to develop in Germany. It's a very strong pro league there, playing against men. So that's just what sticks out in my mind when I think about Peterka, that he had the opportunity to play for London, one of the top junior team, turned it down, stayed home in Germany, continued to develop, ended up going very high in the second round to Buffalo. But always kind of curious that, what would have been had he went to London. Probably would have been another first round pick. Would have been curious to see what his path would have been from there. But very happy to get the player. Obviously, hurts to lose Kesselring and Doan, but I mean, anytime you make a deal of this magnitude, we were saying, like, as Frank Saravelli immediately reported the trade, and then we're waiting for the details of it to drop in. We were talking in the Discord, like, there's going to be a piece here that hurts. They both kind of hurt in my mind. Kesselring hurts a little bit more. Top four right shot defenseman. He's huge. He fights. He hits. He can get probably 40 points down the road. He's cheap too. I think it's 1.4, 1.6 million, but still the reality is on that right side. Kesselring, Marino, Dursey, Mavlam is coming. Thomas Lavoie is coming. So something had to shake loose, and we traded in a top 4D, and I don't know if he's more than a third liner. He's a very good third liner in Josh Doan, but you do get a top line player, 70-point guy, comes in at I wish it was if I'm to be greedy, I wish it was the full 8 years, but to get him for 5 at 7.7, he's going to be a 30 goal guy. Hard to turn that down.
Yeah. You know what? I don't mind the term. I the one that keeps on pounding my hands on the desk saying, hey, we need power play time for some of our young guns coming up too. So if you have Peterka there for 7 years, or if you got that extra 8 with Buffalo signing him and then trading him, that's the top 6 pretty much locked in. I guess once Schmaltz leaves, you have one more spot, but I don't know. I think that 5-year it's nice. It gives some opportunity to move on if maybe he isn't a great fit. Gives us a little bit more flexibility. Sometimes I know you want to always kind of get the most value you can, but there's also a risk that comes with it. And granted, I don't think Peterka would tank his value within 2 years here, but if he gets solved a little bit, if he doesn't fit right over here, you don't necessarily want to have those extra 2 years if for some reason it doesn't work out. But it sure feels like this is the type of player we wanted. I remember going into the offseason, all the Marner rumors, as fun as that was, all I kept on thinking is like, okay, playmaker who's shooting. We got Gunther.
And the salary would have been like twice as much, the numbers we were hearing, right? So even Nick Ehlers, so would you want a 29-year-old Nick Ehlers who's topped out at 64 points, who's more of I don't know if he's playmaker, goal scorer, it's kind of a split. He's 29, best years behind him. He's going to be $8, $9, $10 million, or you can get a 23-year-old for 7.7.
Yeah, I mean, the age fit is perfect. Again, he to me is a very similar player to Keller, where he has very good playmaking ability, but also it's a goal scorer. And some of these other names we've talked about, Ehlers, Marner, and kind of the likes that have been floating around, they're more like pure playmakers. I guess Ehlers is a little bit more of a goal scorer too, but he's more of a perimeter player. He's like the shooting version of Schmaltz almost.
Mm-hmm.
Great comment here from Three Putt of Kesselring being that first player he learned about on the team. That international hockey tournament that happened the summer before Utah's inaugural season. It's really interesting because I think I learned a lot about Kesselring from some of the newer Utah fans actually who watched that and paid attention to him, because a lot of the people in the Clean Hits Discord are kind of mentioning, watch out for this guy. I think he may be.
It was a breakout for him for sure. Like he showed signs in Arizona, but that was a breakout for sure. I do think the trade is not as wide of a gap as some people are saying. I do think it is a win for Utah, at least on paper and this early, but they are getting a top 4D. They need some defense. They are getting a third line forward who can do a little bit of everything, both high character players, really drag this franchise out of the muck. 14 years, no playoffs, probably 15 years, no playoffs too. But if they can continue to make some strides next year, but can you also imagine being JJ Peterka getting traded out of Buffalo? It's like getting the get out of jail free card in Monopoly. Like, you're free, you're out of there. He was only there 2-3 years, and now he gets to get gone. So
yeah, I don't want to bash on Buffalo too much here, but it's been
what about the other deals that Buffalo could have had?
Yes, and that's definitely what I want to talk about as well. Before we get to those, though, I did look at kind of the projected lineup on Daily Faceoff, and seeing Kesselring kind of paired up with Power, seeing Doan on that third line. I think they had Jack Quinn and McLeod with him as a third line. It's like that's a good looking third line. Now I think Quinn maybe he moves up to the second line, but that could be, Zucker, McLeod, and Doan. And you start to see where that 2 players for 1 roster player really helps Buffalo, because I'm like closing my eyes and trying to think what that roster looked like before those 2 positions were filled. And obviously Peterka was there, so maybe the forward group looks better. But man, that defense was brutal. And
yeah, taking some strides. I mean, the hardest thing for Buffalo is just getting out of that division, right? You got Florida in there. You have Toronto. Tampa's still going to be pretty solid. Ottawa made some strides this year. Detroit is eventually going to get out of the bottom. Montreal is very underrated, I think. Boston's going to be at the bottom. I don't think they're going to be nearly as bad, but that is, if it's not the toughest division in hockey, it might be the toughest just to get into the playoffs, because there are a lot of teams who are very similar: Detroit, Ottawa, Buffalo. So that's probably their biggest challenge. Yeah,
and I will say this: I am probably going to be rooting for Buffalo quite a bit now. I really want the Yzer plan to fail. I'm sorry if there's any Detroit fans listening. I just want it to crumble. I
it's already
hated
failed.
The way he approached everything. What was that?
I think it's already failed.
I mean, we're getting there for sure. And I just hated the adding too many players. It goes against BA's philosophy, which he brought up again, of you can win the summer, but what we really want to do is win the winter. And I do get concerned when you start churning rosters by just bringing in people all the time. I remember Nashville, when they brought in Mikael Granlund during kind of the late 2010s, after the Stanley Cup run, and it felt like they just brought in, I remember it was Granlund. I'm trying to think who some of these other players were, but it felt like they made like 3 or 4 trade deadline moves. And some of it was just like, why are you adding that? And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, this year was a first round exit. They just didn't look like they had any sort of chemistry. You want these guys who want to play for each other. And I think that is part of what stings the most about the Kesselring Doan aspect is we are losing 2 people who have been kind of growing up with this team, who are here year 1, are obviously good friends with Logan Cooley. And we did need to give a little tip of the cap to Donor Nation, who are probably just spiraling right now. Stay safe, everybody. And give your local Donor Nation member a hug if you see them around town. But I think right now I'm not too concerned with the chemistry getting too disrupted in Utah, especially from this move. I think Kesselring sees this as a great opportunity to get a paycheck. He seemed to kind of revert a little bit when he lost some
And he's an
minutes
East Coast
to
guy.
Marino, and he's an East Coast guy. It probably stings a lot by Doan, but I love that quote he had earlier about how him and Kess and Cools are all really, really good friends. So he's at least really happy that he's going to have his best friend in Kesselring with him over there. And I think both of them are going to bring a little piss and vinegar to Buffalo, you know?
I could see that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think I will be rooting for Buffalo this year. I'd love for them to jump past Detroit and potentially Ottawa and steal a playoff spot this year. But
maybe.
We will see. We will see.
I think an underrated aspect of the deal is just the fact that it was 2-for-1. Like, we still have too many pieces. We're going to bleed assets here. Like, we couldn't sign that defenseman out of the Victoria Royals. I don't know why we didn't sign him. Maybe we didn't want to offer him a slot. Maybe we weren't interested, whatever. But we have too many players. We have too many picks. This is a good way to start chipping away at that, right? 2-for-1. Maybe there's more deals along the lines of like that where we're going to start packaging up guys. Like last year, right? With Sergachev, 4 assets went out the door. 2 assets went out the door for Marino. 2 went out the door here for Peterka. So maybe we'll continue to see moves like that. I mean, even if you look at the lineup now, I think we have 13 forwards next year. Probably the 13th forward is going to be Liam O'Brien. But right now, we still have too many guys like Matthias Michelli, who I think is probably not wearing a Mammoth jersey this time next week. I think he's an extra at this point because he doesn't really fit in the lineup. So, but we still want to, if we can move him, want to move him before we lose him. So,
yeah, you know, I on the Mammoth side of Daily Faceoff on their little roster prediction, currently the third line is Krause, McBain, Michelli, and it kind of got me thinking. I mean, Michelli and Krause had a ton of chemistry 2 seasons ago. Again, that's not really what I want that third line to look like, though, and especially when bringing Peterka, who has some defensive deficiencies, maybe it's too much. But
one thing with the Daily Faceoff is, and he very well may start in Tucson. No Daniil Boot on here.
So, yes, agreed.
But I think Matthias Michelli, I think that was already sealed last season. The fact that he was scratched multiple times over, even in favor of like Liam O'Brien was in for a pretty good stretch. I think we had Yamamoto in for a decent stretch there over Michelli, who again coming off a 57-point season in Arizona. I think he's done here, and I've said it a number of times in our Discord. I think the first priority is to trade him. But if we can't trade him, the deadline to do a buyout is June 30th, which sounds bizarre again because he had 57 points in Arizona last year. But because he's under the age 26, the buyout is only 1/3 instead of 2/3. So I think we're going to try and trade him up until June 30th. If we can't get it done, I think they'll do a buyout at that point.
Yeah,
do a buyout, and you actually save cap money. He's making, is it 3.4 or 4.3? I think against the cap, which that's a pretty big chunk if he's not going to bounce back. But if you buy him out, you actually make cap savings this year. And then in 2026-27, there's a cap hit. I think it's about $700,000, which that's nothing. That's less than the league minimum. So it clears a roster spot. It gets him a new opportunity somewhere else. If we try and trade him right now, it's probably hard to trade given his performance last year. If you try and trade him, teams are very unlikely going to take the $4 million hit and not send some sort of contract back, even with the rising cap. Like, that's a decent risk. That's a decent number to take. So yeah, I would rather buy him out, rather like trade him for some $2 million overpaid fourth line guy and like a 6th round pick. Don't really want that.
Yeah. You know, if we can get out of that for free somehow, a team like Pittsburgh makes a lot of sense. A team like
that's where he needs to go. He needs to go to some rebuilding team, play in the top 6. You know, play the garbage time, get 60 points, and you know, if we buy him out, he'll probably get a 1-year contract somewhere else, get 60 points, and then you can cash in a year from now.
You know, Vancouver actually could make a little bit of sense too.
Yeah, go for it.
Besser's gone. I mean, they
Mhm.
brought in Kane, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but
No.
well, let's go into that Saravelli quote too. This morning, he kind of announced that there could have been some other people knocking on Buffalo's door and making really interesting proposals. He threw
Mhm.
out Jordan Kyrie's name, defenseman Noah Dobson of the Islanders, and that a team was going to give up multiple first-round picks plus 2 roster players. I don't know what to think about that. I was originally thinking Kyrie wasn't locked up, but he is. Now he's a little bit older.
Yeah, how
But
old is he?
that
Like
almost seems like
28
it
ish.
28, 29, yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. But it almost seems like you lose Peterka and you just bring in kind of a very similar player and
Who
that
is signed?
capacity. Who is signed? Yes, exactly. The 2 first and 2 roster players, my only guess is if it was, let's just say Nashville this year, who has 3 firsts, 2 of them are
Mhm.
very late.
Yeah, I
Those
could see it
roster
being
players are
something like that.
probably not all anywhere near the level of players
No.
they got from Donor Kesselring. You're probably talking about a third to maybe second pairing defenseman-ish player and maybe a third
Yeah.
liner or so. And then the Dobson one is really interesting. And I predict that the Islanders didn't want just Peterka with Dobson.
I think, I've been seeing this $10 million number for Dobson, and that seems to be getting a little criticism, but I think that's a pretty good price. He had 70
Yeah.
points a year ago. He's a right shot.
Yep.
He's got great size. He can play all situations. I'm still interested in bringing him to Utah. But I think for him to go to Buffalo, that $10 million price tag starts to creep up towards 12. That's a big chunk of money, especially when they're already trying to trade Bowen Byram on that right side. So, but you would have Darlene, you would have Dobson, you would have Owen Power, and you would have, I don't know, potentially Byram if you keep him. But that seems a little bit overkill for Buffalo.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I do think he is done in Long Island. He fired his agent mid-season. Negotiations were not going well. Islanders have since They've since fired their GM. Still no deal. We're days away here from restricted free agency. I think he's gone.
Yeah.
And there was rumors today connecting him to Montreal. So
now that's a hell of a fit. He was a cute kid, right?
He was.
Yeah, that makes almost too much sense. And Montreal has a little bit of extra pieces that they could probably make that work.
Not great if you're Buffalo. You couldn't get him, and then he goes to a division rival.
Yeah, but they're going to be so far out of it for a while.
Yeah. The thing around the first round picks, it could have been a team with multiple picks this year, like Nashville, like Philly. I think Calgary has a couple of picks. Pittsburgh's got a couple of picks, but I also wonder if it wasn't maybe both 2025 picks. It would have been similar. Do you remember when we got some criticism for the Chikrin trade where we traded him to Ottawa for a first and 2 seconds because those were very high picks? And there was rumors like, oh, Arizona could have had 2 firsts and a second, but those were first round picks in like pick number 25, pick number 26 in separate years from cup contenders at that point. So you're looking for picks higher in the draft. So I wonder if it was very similar to that, like 2 low-ish first round picks, probably at least some sort of contract coming back with those 2 players, right, to make up the $7 million gap. Like even us, I guess we only sent about 2 or 3 million, but it is some money going back. I would be kind of curious. So, I mean, I guess you can make the case that ours was the best offer, but that Dobson one really stands out to me, even if I don't again, I think it might be a little bit overkill in Buffalo, but a Darlene Dobson pairing is pretty solid little too. Or you put them on separate pairs and have one of those guys on the ice for 45 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Same with Sergachev.
Yeah, but again, I just don't think it was going to be a 1-for-1 thing. Maybe they wanted the 9th as well to get the maybe closer to go for Hagens. Go get the Long Island boy.
Yeah, and he seems to be following the draft. He might be around 7-ish, so pretty crazy. When a year ago he was probably number 1. So,
yeah, we'll see. We'll see tomorrow. In fact, I think we were all kind of hoping there was going to be a little bit more chatter and trades today too. You never know what you're going to get around draft time. Sometimes there's a lot of wheeling and dealing. Sometimes there's not. Seems like we're got a slower pre-draft frenzy, if you will. But it sounds like there may be quite a bit of movement in the draft itself, and there's been some reports that more picks are on the table than previous seasons. There's a lot of finger pointing that Utah may move the 4th overall pick, but then general manager Bill Armstrong was on KSL Live today and kind of played poker face. He said, we may pick, we'd like to pick, but if the right deal comes, we would make the right deal, and that you got to tune in. That's what he was saying. So speaking of tuning in, if you are in the Arizona area, we are going to be watching the draft live at Arizona Ice Gilbert within the tavern. So swing on by if you want to hang out with a bunch of hockey prospect dorks and soak it all in. And I'm sure there's plenty of meetings happening all around SLC. I believe some of the members of the Clean His Discord are organizing to meet. I'm not totally sure where I'd need to look, but it does sound like there's maybe some meetups going on. If you're not part of our Discord, come join us. You can find it at discord.cleanhishockey.com. Got just tons of fans in there that just chat all dang day, and I can't even keep up with it anymore, but we have a lot of fun in there. Game day threads are incredible. The Utah trade thread has been really fun, and obviously we have loads of info on prospects and our prospect thread there. But I am ready for this draft. I think this is going to be a really, really fun one. In a lot of ways, it's almost like the first Utah Mammoth draft. I mean, it technically is. So we got the first Utah player drafted with TJ Ginla last year. And this year we're going to have the first Utah Mammoth drafted. Hopefully at the 4th overall, or maybe we move back. Which way are you leaning at this point? Are you hoping that they are going to stick and pick? Or would you prefer maybe get a little extra value by doing a trade back or trade it outright?
I mean, trade it outright is always fun for the excitement, but I would only do that for a top center. I don't really know if it makes much sense to do that for Dobson when it'd be nice, but it's more of a luxury need at this point. Unless you got the wheels turning and you could do 4 for Dobson and then Dursey for some other thing, but it's easier to just trade it for a center. I don't know who that player is right now. Right now, I'm thinking we're going to pick at 4, and it's going to be Desnoyers, Brady Martin, really interesting player. I do still have some qualms with taking him as high as 4, maybe if you can trade back, but again, trade back for a couple second-round picks, and then we're just going to have to, like I said, we already have so many assets, somehow. Right? So
yeah, we're going to have to find just give BA more work by giving him more assets to use,
But yeah, if you can get a center, sure. But I just don't know who that player is. It'd have to be a very high-end second-line center, because I don't think a first-line center is getting moved for 4th overall. Now, we did talk about Lundell a couple of weeks ago. If that was on the table, absolutely. Doesn't even need any more pieces. Can just be 1 for 1. I'm totally fine with that. I think he's a 70-point center. He checks every box in my mind. I mean, I guess there is some risk there that he doesn't get there offensively, but he was playing on the 3rd line in Florida, right? Between Luosterainen and was it Marchand? So he's basically like, I mean, it sounds like a very, putting this kind of pressure on him, but if you call him like the next Barkov, but he has a lot of the same qualities.
He does. And we kind of talked about this on the show a couple of weeks ago. It was when it was initially brought up by Trent, it was like a no way in my mind. And then the more I thought about it, the more I started to ease into the idea.
So if you're Florida, do you just do that? Take Brady Martin, let him cook in a Sioux for another year or 2, and then you're good to go. But like, what do you do in the meantime for Florida? Like, you just lost a pretty good piece from a two-time
Bring
Stanley
Bukes
Cup
back.
champion. So he's going to be available. You know what? I kind of think he might be done. I think he might get a PTO, but I think he's probably done.
He may. We have a question, Wes. What time is the draft Arizona time, which is Pacific right now? It is 4 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Utah time, 7 p.m. Eastern, or Corey time, if you will.
That's what
James mentioning Utah picking Martone. He is a tempting prospect, but now with Peterka there, we have Tej, we have Keller, we have Gunther. I just don't see where you fit another winger long term,
and a gaping hole at center. So
yes,
we don't
have to
draft for need, but maybe that factors into the equation because everyone defines need differently. So, or everyone defines best player differently. So maybe the best player is the tiebreaker is because one is a center.
Yep. Lowe had a good comment, kind of going back to Buffalo and Dobson. Had that Dobson trade actually happen, and maybe it's 1-for-1 for Peterka. Darlene Dobson power would be about $29 million for your top 3 defensemen, which kind of is shades of Toronto, too much money in one type of position. So I could see where that may have been one of the factors where Kevin Adams decided, or who is their GM right now?
In Buffalo?
Yeah.
Kevin Adams, at least for now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's only a matter of time until he's fired and replaced by Kekalainen.
Yep. But that may have been, the straw that broke the camel's back. Another comment from Conrad. I want Hurdle. Yeah, that's the one that we haven't really talked about, and his name was just out there from Cam Robinson just yesterday, where he almost made it sound like Hurdle was on the move to Carolina.
Apparently that got shot down though. But I did see some other stuff out of Vegas that Carlson's not going to move. Who was the other name? Barbashev was not stricken off the list, so that could be an option. But again, another winger. So I don't know.
Yeah. Welcome, Trent. How you doing?
Hey, running a little bit behind. Yeah. Sounds like you guys are talking potential trade targets. I'd heard from Sarah Valley, or was it Friedman? I think it was Friedman, that he doesn't expect that either William Karlsson or Thomas Hurdle are on the move. So I'm guessing that probably means Barbashev is the one to move.
Well, and it sounds like there's gonna be some kind of LTIR scam here with Pietrangelo. Free up the money for Marner. So
gosh. Let me paint you a picture. I mean that
right. There was some reporting just a couple of minutes ago, Chris Johnston saying not only Montreal, but the St. Louis Blues are in on Dobson.
Which makes a ton of sense. I mean, that is a team that has a very old defensive core. This is a good comment if we want to get into draft talk from our friend Steven. Does Misa fall to 4? What I thought was really interesting when I was writing a gambling piece earlier today is on the Blue Book, if you go to their draft options and you go to the actual pick selections, like X player getting picked at this position, and you go down to the 4th overall pick, your selections are in order of lowest odds to highest. Desnoyers at -140, Brady Martin plus 270, Martone plus 450, Hagens plus 900, Frondell plus 1500, McQueen plus 4000, Misa plus 4500. There's a name missing there.
The pride of the Brantford Bulldogs, right?
Yep. A big, rangy, playmaking center named Jack O'Brien is not on the list of options for the Utah to take at pick 4.
What does it mean when Jake O'Brien is removed from there? I don't know what that means.
You can pick him at 3 or 5.
But I mean, why would they do that? Does that suggest that this secret is out and people know it's going to be him and they don't want to accept bets on it?
Maybe.
What is it? Or does it mean that
you could infer
really
that.
don't know what the hell they're doing and they have a perfectly good option missing because it's hockey and they're more of a college hoops kind of operation?
Yeah, but he's right there at pick 5, plus 1,500 at pick 5. Pick 3 is plus 5,000. So I don't know. I don't know.
Interesting. I wish we knew where Beckett Seneca was last year.
Oh, yeah. If I can.
So there is precedent, right? For getting back to the Michael Misa thing, it's not necessarily a slam dunk that he's going to go number 2. No, like nobody had. I just totally forgot his name. The Oshawa kid who went 3rd last year, Seneca. And then even going back to like Puljujärvi fell to number 4, right? Because Dubois went ahead of him. Yes. And no one was thinking that. Right. So it's not, totally unprecedented that Michael Misa is on the table tomorrow at number 3. And then at that point, you need to have a conversation with Chicago. You don't necessarily have to do the trade, but you got to do your due diligence to at least investigate that.
So yeah, going back to this comment, there does seem to be some smoke of Frondell going to San Jose now, which would be a very nice fit. Where Misa does kind of fit the Will Smith profile quite a bit. Maybe they want to diversify that talent pool. Maybe they see the larger player with the big shot as the better option there. And
it makes a lot of sense with William Eklund as his winger. And I think that Smith and Celebrini work really well together. So there's a pair of excellent fits for one another on each line. I mean, Frondell and Victor Eklund had amazing chemistry this year, and Victor and William are very similar in their approach. So you kind of have an idea that chemistry will work based on what you've seen in Djurgården already this season, if you're Mike Greer.
Yep. Any possibility it goes Schaefer at 1, Frondell at 2, Chicago sitting there with Misa, but they're going to take Porter Martone.
So that's kind of goes to James' comment here. Misa won't make it past Chicago. I have a hard time thinking that too. I think they feel if that were to happen that that's too.
But the last player who had CHL exceptional status went number 4. So
very true.
It could happen again.
Very true.
Kyle Davidson was recently interviewed and was saying that he has full confidence in Connor Bedard and Frank Nazar as their top 2 centers of the future, both of whom are pretty small centers. So you might think to yourself, I'd really like to insulate them with some big wingers. So I think if they were to pass on Misa at 3, which I don't think they would, it would probably be for Martone, who, despite not being the highest kid on my list personally, from having watched him all season, and liking him a lot as a prospect, enough to rank him in my top 10. In fact, in my top 8, I don't have him in my top 5, let alone my top 3. But you know who does? The NHL. In Bob McKenzie's scouting poll, where he polls 10 scouts from 10 NHL clubs, the consensus pick at number 3 was Martone. Now, keep in mind, McKenzie did say that this draft, as much as it's the Matthew Schaefer draft, is truly the scattershot draft, is what he said, because picks 2 through 8 can go in any order at all. But Martone did have the edge in consensus at number 3. So
yeah, crazy things has happened. I would honestly think Martone at 3 wouldn't be as big of a reach as Seneca at 3 last year. What would be more surprising, though, is to let a player at Misa's caliber fall further.
I think that would be very surprising. I don't expect that it would happen. I think they would probably just do the simple thing and take Misa. It's not as though they have sure shot centers in Bedard and Nazar. It's one thing to tell the press in a conference that you're confident in them. It's another thing in closed door meetings when you're projecting what this team's going to look like when they win a Stanley Cup. Are those 2 really your 1 and 2C? I don't know if anyone's really thinking that. With any kind of confidence, right? So I think they probably take Misa. Now, if they think they need a sure shot center for that reason, and they don't think Misa is. Could Caleb Desnoyers, the Jonathan Taves Part 2, be appealing enough to them at 3 to skip Misa for Desnoyers? Potentially. Yeah. So I'd say maybe there's like a, I don't know, 10% shot they take Desnoyers, a 10% shot they take Martone, and an 80% shot they take Misa. But hell, we had longer odds when we won the lottery, right? So can we get lucky again and have the consensus number 2 player fall to 4? It seems like probably not. Nobody's quite that lucky. Even after we saw the packages Buffalo turned down for JJ Peterka, I don't know if we're going to be charmed thrice in just a month's time like that. I assume that at some point the luck's going to have to run out, and we're going to have to pay market value for something, or have the market shape out in a way that you would expect, which would be Misa definitely going in the top 3. Could potentially trade up. I mean, San Jose likes Frondell, right? They're also rumored to like Desnoyers. They're also rumored to like Misa, Martone, whoever. Maybe in their mind it's close enough that they'd be elated to get like an unprotected first-round pick from us next year, plus our second-round pick this year for us to move up from Misa. Seems like pretty good value to move 2 spots if you have your 2 through 4 ranked very tightly anyway.
What's the most you would do to trade up to 3, though? We did see some precedent again with that last year, right? With Minnesota. So if Chicago is okay, they know we want Misa, and they know they could kind of take advantage of us a little bit. What is the most you would pay to swap 4 for 3?
If I know for sure that the first 3 picks in this draft are going to be Schaefer, Frondell, and Misa, if I don't make a trade, I would pay the same price to move up 1 spot, because I don't care. For me, I'm moving up for the player on my list, not the spot on the board, right? Misa's my number 2. And for me, the gap in tier is big enough that I would take Misa at 2 and pay an unprotected first and a second to do it. So whether I got to do that just to move up 1 spot to number 3 to take him, sure, same outcome, right? Same player.
I would do that. Like I was thinking 2026 first, the additional second gave me a little pause, but at the same time, we can move some other stuff. Like if we're that like desperate for an additional second-round pick, we can move some stuff and just get 1 back. So
yeah, and plus
we already have extra picks already, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I was gonna say
San Jose seems like the kind of team that might actually like Michelli,
Yeah, someone's got to take him.
They don't worry about the cap. He's not like that expensive. They're not going to make the playoffs next year. Whoever they pick at 2 or 4 is not going to make the team anyway, or shouldn't.
No.
So you might as well just take Michelli too. I mean,
Mike Greer is a really underrated GM though. He's probably, and I was not expecting that when I hired him, because he only worked for like the Rangers for like a year or 2, right? As like a director of personnel or something like that. And then, but yeah, he's probably a top 10 GM these days. Saying that there's I
didn't like his start either. I think wasn't his first trade the one he did with us where we got geeky. I thought that was a pretty weak trade for them.
Oh yeah.
I didn't love the retention on the Hurdle deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, aside from that, now he's top 10, but that's also because there's probably about at least 10 GMs who are not competing for the top 10 because they're so awful. And Kevin Adams might be at the top of that list.
Yeah. Yikes.
I'm kind of with Flo. I think an unprotected 2026 first plus a second is a little too rich for my taste, even whether it's a move of 2 spots or 1. If it happens, it happens, and I'm not going to be wildly disappointed. Yeah, I know.
Spot doesn't matter. It's about the player,
I know,
right? Like
I don't moving both of those picks to Chicago, who is in the division, though.
Where does Cole Baudouin end up if we draft another center?
4th line.
So you go Cooley, let's say Misa. Let's just say it happens. Cooley, Misa, Hayton, and Baudouin.
Yeah. So at some point, we will hit the cap on salary, and guys are going to need new deals, and you're going to need that flexibility.
You just got to keep pushing for expansion teams. Get that cap going even higher. Yeah. Bring in Atlanta, bring in Houston, bring in Quebec, bring in
New Orleans. Here's a scenario where Barrett Hayton wants more than you want to pay him, and then you'll be glad you have Cole Baudouin.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Or what if you can just move Baudouin in order to move up one or 2 spots?
Yeah. I like Baudouin better than next year's first though, because he's closer.
You do?
Yeah,
I don't, because I think Baudouin is only a 3C at very, very best, and that's still. I mean, that's still a at the end of the day, that's still a
Okay.
McKenna ticket in case
Yeah,
everything goes
yeah.
totally wrong.
We pick a kid in the 20s next year or the late teens. We'll see them in 5 years from then, maybe. So 6 years from now.
But
Brad,
can you
you're
trade
going
it
to
for
be
something else?
46, 47 years old at that point by the time you see that kid, if ever. And they're just going to trade him anyway.
Say it like that.
Like, who cares? Cole Beaudoin will be here in 2
True.
years.
But it's also the pick we would need for an offer sheet too.
Ooh.
Now, I don't know if it makes much sense to offer sheet Matthew Nyes anymore, considering the amount of wings we have.
But you have to do that this summer if
Yeah.
you're going to
Yeah.
use it.
Yes.
So
Or trade it for just a player outright rather than an offer sheet. But again, there is some precedent there. It made me think of when St. Louis drafted the oh so talented David Rundblad, and then the next year they traded him to was it Ottawa?
Ottawa.
And then
Yeah.
whoever they picked with that pick.
and then we end up with
There's a trade tree for you.
Ay.
That turns into Dvorak. Dvorak turns into
Oh,
the stuff
first
to
and
get.
second.
Was it the
Geeky.
stuff to get Geeky, which turns into Sergachev?
Yep.
And then if you want to go like all the way back, that starts with Kyle Turris.
Yeah.
Turris was the Rundblad. Yeah, we got Rundblad.
Wow.
Runblad second turned into Dvorak though.
So
yeah.
we turned
Rundblad is a good
Bukestad.
cautionary tale about putting too much stock into what young players do in the Swedish league.
Yep.
So
He
we
had a
turned
historic season for a young defenseman in that league. He was a sure shot, can't miss prospect. And then he got over here and he was soft as butter and couldn't move and
he's
never
a
put
Swiss
on any
League
strength.
all day.
But he can play east-west on a huge ice surface like nobody's business. But in North America, he was utterly useless.
The initial Victor Soderstrom.
Good perspective on not getting a little bit too overhyped on very European-style Euros, playing on large ice surfaces, playing a European game, and projecting that to the NHL.
So we traded Kyle Turris, Derek Stepan, and who was the other one? Nick Bukestad for JJ Peterka and Mikhail Sergachev.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty
good.
Pretty good.
We need the Larry David gif.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, with I've already asked Corey this. Trent, where do you sit with picking at 4, trading back, maybe getting some extra value, and picking at, let's just say, 6 to 8? Or trading it outright?
I don't think the Flyers or the Bruins are going to help us out with roster pieces that we want to move up a few spots. And I don't really care about getting extra draft capital. And I don't really want to move any lower than 7 or 8 at the absolute lowest. So I wouldn't really be interested in picking up, second round picks or future picks. That's not appealing to me. Also, I don't really want to trade down because I don't see a good fit there, right? Like, what's Boston or Philly or Seattle gonna do for us? Or no, it's gonna do for us from a roster player perspective. I don't think they're gonna help us out that way. So I wouldn't trade down. I don't see it as realistic. We got a comment about trading for the 2 Pittsburgh picks. I'm not at all interested in doing that. I want a sure shot game changer way up at the top. I'd be much more inclined to trade up. That'd probably be my preference at this point, would be to move up and get me stuff. And I don't care about any draft pick after the next one. I really don't. I have zero attachment to the 46th overall pick. I have zero attachment to any other draft pick we have in any future year. The pick that we make next is the last pick I'm going to care about for 5 years. I don't care.
Do we have one of those breaking news trade alert goal horns?
Oh, yes, I do.
That's just a very minor trade. It's not involving us, but
wait. Let's do this right though.
Can you get booed like that one?
You gotta turn it off. Turn it off. It goes forever. It's a loop.
Florida trades Justin. Yeah, breaking news. Florida trades Vancouver Giants graduate Justin Surduff to Washington for a 2nd and a 6th. That actually seems like pretty good value for a prospect who has not really taken a step. So to get a 2nd round pick for him and a 6 on top of that. So, yeah.
Is that like second round pick in the CHL draft or the
Yeah,
NHL
that
draft?
seems
I mean,
very high, right? And that, I mean, I guess that is a Washington one, so it's probably in the late 50s, but that is
huh.
breaking news. Oh no, that's a different trade by Florida. But yeah, Florida 2 trades today, Columbus 2 trades today. Hopefully that action continues.
Wow. That's bizarre. That's a bizarre trade.
Yes.
Yeah, man. So I would say trading up would be my ideal. I'd entertain trading out, but I'll be furious. I'll be very upset, um, very pissed off if this fourth overall pick does not turn into a center.
I agree. And
So you can't trade this for Matt Barzal. I don't need another soft winger. I don't give a don't. I need a center, period. So unless you have like a center that makes sense in mind, and I can't really think of any. I mean, Anton Lundell's got a 4% chance of being traded. Okay.
Yep.
I would do that. Mason McTavish, but why the hell would the Ducks do that?
And they just traded a center.
So like, and then Lundell, like, the Florida Panthers are cash strapped. They might want to bring back Ekblad and Marchand and Bennett and whatever, but you trade like a young, very reasonably priced player to accomplish that. I don't see it. I don't think so.
I don't either.
Until somebody can pinpoint one name of a center that I would actually trade the fourth overall pick for that could potentially be traded for the fourth overall pick, I don't understand the concept. I would open that up to the comments or anybody. Like,
yeah, I'm just running through the teams here. I mean, there is always Marco Rossi, but I don't think he's worth the fourth pick, and I don't think he's going to even get moved for that high of a value. But beyond that, who else is out there?
It's
more winger 3-putt.
I mean,
second line center might be the biggest
actually when we started
piece.
Talking about the idea of Kesselring to Buffalo was when we were going through every single team looking for a 2C, and we had Cousins circled, and we're like, wait a second, they could use a right wing or a right defense.
I'm not interested in Norris, certainly not for the fourth overall. I'm skipping ahead.
No.
You guys are going team by team.
Norris is injured again, so.
Oh, you don't say. Oh man, who could have seen this coming? Holy shit! I would never.
Hopefully not his shoulder, because if it's his shoulder, he's probably
that would happen. Oh man.
All right, so I'll do another little exercise. Take out Misa. Rank your top 4 centers in order of who they could logistically take at 4. And I think those 4 centers are Martin, Desnoyers, O'Brien, and Higgins. I don't think Utah would go for McQueen
or Frundell
due to the injury.
I
don't think Frundell makes it. I just don't think Frundell makes it to 4. You know what? I think there's a better likelihood that Misa makes it to 4 than Frundell.
And I don't have
that seems to be the trend.
5, and I know there's NHL teams that have him 8th, 7th, and 8th, and that's where I'd have him down there. With Bartone for me personally.
So ranking Desnoyers, O'Brien, Higgins, and Martin.
For me, it's Desnoyers. It's Martin, who's closed the gap since yesterday. We just gave up 2 very good character, high motor, punch in the mouth players yesterday for a finesse winger in Peterka. So Martin has closed the gap a bit on Desnoyers. Desnoyers is a really good, solid, all-around 200-foot center who's got brains for days. He's got a good motor, but he's not a violent player like Brady Martin. So Brady Martin's closed the gap a bit. In third place there for me is Higgins, who I certainly have rated higher on my board than Martin. You know, but given the circumstances of how things are shaping out, like you want Higgins and Cooley with Peterka and Keller. Doesn't work. And then I have O'Brien there. I mean, 24 hours ago, I would have had it Desnoyers, Higgins, Martin, O'Brien. Now
not you're just ranking.
Yeah, for me personally.
Okay.
But now, given that I'm picking for the Mammoth, and given what we saw yesterday, and that Peterka signed for 5 more years, now I'm thinking Higgins isn't really in the consideration for me at this point.
Yeah.
There's a good chance he ends up a winger, a small one, skill one. We don't need that. So for me, really, it's Desnoyers, Martin, and O'Brien in that order.
I may have O'Brien at the top.
I think I have him number 2.
I really like the idea of a bigger center who has a lot of room to grow, a more playmaking guy with a puck dog like Tej, and then a guy like JJ who can do a little bit of everything, or with a sniper like Gunther.
Ooh.
I don't know. I think now that the top 6 is like almost cemented in place of wingers, at least. I mean, it's pretty much going to, for the next at least 5 years, right? It's going to be JJ, Gunther, Keller, and then one of Tej and Boot.
I like O'Brien as much as the other guys, right? Like, I don't hate that at all. I'd be happy. I have him last on my list for one reason. You're going to wait an extra year for him. I'm impatient, dude. I don't want to wait another year. So for me, I'd rather have Martin or Desnoyers because I get him sooner.
I can wait a year now that we have JJ. I think Hayton can grow enough with 2 solid wingers next to him for the next 2 years to wait for O'Brien to get to that point now. Yesterday I would have had Desnoyers as my top and Martin and then O'Brien. Now I think it's O'Brien. I think I do have Martin over Desnoyers now. I think Desnoyers may be my third. Not that I would care. I like all 3 of those quite a bit. But I feel like Desnoyers may bring a little bit too much of what we already have with Hayton, even though I think his offensive upside is higher. And I don't know. I think you can take a bigger swing at O'Brien or Martin now for having like a more of a unicorn type player.
The Desnoyers risk injuries weigh on me a little bit. That weighs on me a little bit because if he has to have surgery and he misses the season, again, you're waiting an extra year, just like Iginla. I believe if Iginla played this year, he'd be in the NHL next year. I do.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I would go Desnoyers, even though I'm still going to stumble over how to say that name. O'Brien, Higgins, and then Martin. Lots of concerns about Martin's offensive upside. Like, he could very well be a 40-point guy, and to pick that on number 4 is concerning. I mean, he checks on pretty much every other box. Just don't know if the high-end offensive upside is there. And then Higgins, even if he is a wing, he's going to have some pretty solid trade value. Like, if he's a Logan Cooley on the wing, he's going to have all kinds of trade value.
I have more issue with a 40.2C when your potential wingers next to you aren't 2 of Keller, JJ Peterka, Gunther, and Tej Iginla or Daniel Boot. I having locked in another potential 70-point, 25+ goal scorer makes it feel a lot like how that Panthers top 6 looks, where Bennett plays with Matthew Tkachuk and then had some sort of mix of Verhaeghe and Evan Rodriguez. It just makes me care so much less because I know we have locked up young, cost-controlled, high-end wingers all throughout the top 6.
Tej was playing center briefly. That experiment failed. He was ineffective at the position and was moved back to winger before they shut him down for the season. He's not a center.
By the way, it is a 2026 second and a 2027 6 to Florida for Justin Surduff. Justin Surduff played 43 games this year with the Charlotte Checkers. He had 34 points. He's played. He was drafted in the 3rd round of 2020, and he's since played 4 games in the NHL.
What?
That's a. If it was just the 6th, that seems more realistic to me. But the second rounder is a little strange.
Yes. Was there a future consideration somewhere that we forgot about that they were making good on at this point? I don't.
Yeah, I don't. I remember him with the Vancouver Giants. Really solid player, a little small, but
he got traded to the Oil Kings, and that's what I believe moved Dylan Gunther from center back to wing. Is when they acquired
I think that's right. Yes, and they won the championship in Edmonton. But
That's what you tune into Clean Hits for. That level of food cut.
but very
That's your friends.
the Capitals fans got to be kind of scratching their head over this. Like
They lost a bet. They've been drinking.
Maybe
They lost
in a pretty deep. I mean, if Florida didn't have any stuff, but now they're starting to recoup some picks here. So
that was a lost bet. It's got to be. I would challenge the concept of Martin having a limited offensive upside relative to somebody like Desnoyers or even O'Brien, right? I think that perceptions die hard, and he was a player who didn't come into the season with much hype. He was a player who, in the first half on a bad team with lots of injuries, didn't get a whole lot done offensively. But over the second half of the season, he showed immense improvement. He was the most improved draft-eligible forward in the CHL, most improved draft-eligible player in the CHL from an offensive output perspective in the whole draft class by a lot. Number one with a bullet. Speaking of bullets, he's got a wicked hard shot. I would say it's right up there with Rondell. It's certainly better than O'Brien by a long shot. It's better than Desnoyers by a long shot. So, like, okay, you've got an aggressive physical kid who gets to the hard areas and can rifle a puck. How's that an offensive limitation? He's got an NHL shot. He's got NHL balls. Like, I mean, deny him at your own risk. He's going to get in there.
Eyes in the back of his head, right?
What's that?
What Dan Martell's eyes in the back of his head? Jake O'Brien?
Yeah, he's got eyes in the back of his head. He's a really good playmaker, but he doesn't play with pace, right? That'll come with strength, hopefully, and development. He's a good upside swing, but I mean, with Martin, what you've got is a guy who can shoot the puck. He's got underrated playmaking ability, and the thing is, he puts the puck into high danger areas, and he takes the puck into high danger areas, and he scores from high danger areas. Like, he's in the blender, in the mixer, in the low slot all the time. His name is Brady Low Slot Martin. Where do the goals get funked in the NHL? Low slot. We don't score from the top of the circles in the NHL with Dipsy Doodle Jr. shit. We score from the low slot.
Definitely would not be upset with the selection, but 4 overall, that seems steep.
It's found money.
But if that is the way to if that's the only way to get these players, right? So
don't get me wrong.
Everybody's been telling us over the past couple of weeks.
Found money, but also don't want to piss it away just because we found it. So
here's something else too to think about with Martin is the fit, right? So we're talking about 3 different 2Cs here, and it's like, okay, yeah, they're all 2Cs. So let's evaluate them on the merits of their puck skills and talent and ability to dangle. I think that's a mistake. So you want to think about where they're going to fit in the lineup, right? What's their role going to be like? What are they going to do? We have PP quarterbacks who possess the puck and distribute the puck. A lot of them. Jake O'Brien's going to be better than them, and if he is, he's going to knock them out of that slot. And then what do they do? Who do we have who's a net crashing, net front presence, who's going to play the bumper on the power play in this group? Is it Keller? Is it Peterka? No. Is it Gunther? Is it Iginla? Maybe Iginla to an extent. Boot. That's not really his game. He's physical, but not really in front of the net. It's not going to be Jake O'Brien. It's not going to be Caleb Desnoyers, right? So if we have guys who already transport the puck, if we have guys who already distribute the puck, if we have plenty of power play quarterback, like, my point is there's only one puck out there. And there's one net front. And right now we don't really have anyone who's going to stand there. Martin will.
Yep. You're very good at this, Trent.
He's not even my pick is Desnoyers.
I know. I'm kind of feeling like I want to adjust mine.
Even Martin, Desnoyers, whatever, still need a short-term center until those guys are ready to go.
Yes,
and that's got to be free agency or that's got to be trade. And if we are using the 4th overall pick to draft, then what are we trading for a center? Because you look at free agency, John Tavares is probably going to be there. I don't think he's coming to Utah. Mikhail Granlund is there. That's kind of like, okay. I know, Brad, you and I were talking a little bit beforehand. What if you just put Hayton at 2C and then you get a really top of the line third line center to really just hold down the fort until one of those drafted guys is ready to go. But that free agency crop is pretty limited.
I think this is a slam dunk layup. I don't watch basketball, so I don't know what the order is of those two things. The layup for a slam dunk, maybe.
80% of the time
next
it works
topic
every
I
time.
want to talk about, and that's the fallout of the Peterka trade and how it feels like we should approach the offseason. And I do think center can still be addressed. Again, I am so much less concerned about a 2C if we draft at 4 overall, especially a guy like Martin Ordenoye who could be here in 2 years playing 3C. I mean, Hayton could be a 2C stopgap for maybe 3 more seasons at this point. And putting up 45 points last season, was it 45 or 40? Or was it 49?
Sir, who is this?
Mr. Hayton, Baron Hayton, as the donor nation would say.
I think it was 45?
Crazy. I mean, I used to know this stuff in the back of my head. He put up 46 points, 20 goals was the milestone that we really were shooting for. That is decent production, and he didn't have consistent line mates for a lot of the season. He's kind of bouncing up and down between the first and second line. Things got shuffled quite a bit. If you're going to staple Peterka to him, and I don't know, Boot or Schmaltz or Gunther, I'm not concerned anymore. And what we were talking about, Corey, is then maybe going out and finding a really good 3C, and that would be kind of the way I would tweak it. Unfortunately, in free agency, we couldn't find anything besides Pius Suter, who we just bashed a couple weeks ago. Bringing back Bukestad, which isn't happening, and it sounds like Tavares is staying in Toronto, so that one to knock Hayton down. Maybe we use more assets.
There was only 4 centers, free agents, who had more than 50 points last year. Tavares, Sam Bennett, Claude Giroux, Granlund.
And
I'm fine with a guy who's putting up 35 points or so that plays good defense, but
Granlund's not a guy I have a whole lot of interest in. Brad, you made a good point. Like, how does Peterka change the math on what we're looking for in centers? Granlund, I didn't have any interest in before his massive playoffs, and I had very little interest in until we acquired Peterka, who can move. I think Granlund can kind of be Granny down the middle with these guys who can buzz around and be creative. And he can help us out on a short-term contract. I worry a little bit that his big playoffs is going to cause somebody to overpay him.
Yeah.
So that would be the thing. I'd want him on a fair deal, and I don't know if he's going to get a fair deal. It is silly season in free agency. Like, if you could get Granlund on a reasonably termed contract, 2-3 years at the most, I suddenly like that a whole heck of a lot more than I did 24 hours ago.
Do we bring up the other name we were talking about pre-show? Also had a relatively decent but short playoff, Christian Dvorak. 33 points last year. Still had all the same issues in Montreal with the injuries and everything like that. Never has taken that step to be more than a 3C. But if we want a 3C, this is one. Now, I'm not a big fan of bringing back old faces.
Yeah.
But given the lack of options in free agency, if you really want to look under every stone, then he could be an option.
He's a free agent?
Yeah.
Dvorak? What do you have last year points-wise?
33.
And how many games?
82. He played the full year. Is that the first time he's ever done that? Yes, it is. The year before that, though, he had 9 in 30 games.
I thought he looked really good in the Washington Capitals series.
He did. He was one of their better players.
It allows us to put McBain on the 4th line with Stenlund
and Kerfoot.
Or move him back to wing.
I think McBain is better on wing. Yeah.
Yeah, McBain on the wing with Stenlund down the middle and Kerfoot on the other side, and then you get up to Dvorak with, I guess, Kraus and Boot.
you always have to look at the injuries with Dvorak. What if you bring him in and he gets hurt again? And then we're just back to the same thing where
that's when you bring in your
Kerfoot's playing
optionality
center.
players like McBain or Kerfoot to be able
But
to
I don't
slow
want to
down
use
that.
that option.
I know, but that's what it's there for.
Flo had a good name in the chat. She said Shane Pinto, which would be great.
Oh yeah, I was trying to find.
But I feel like we don't have the right. 4th overall is too much.
Yeah, Kesselring would have been the piece there to me.
Yeah. Plus Ottawa doesn't want picks. So
now, okay, so what if you go out and get a right D like Dobson or well, I guess we trade for Dobson, but
I saw this TikTok where this kid had surgery to add like 8 inches to his height. He couldn't walk for a year because his back was like getting restructured, but he went from like 5'8" to 6'4". Can Marco Rossi do that? Take a year off of hockey, get this insane surgery, and then come back a year from now and he's this 6'4" Austrian beast.
No. No. Simple answer.
I'm gonna send the TikTok to BA.
I'm gonna go ahead and choose just as a rule to steer clear of any Austrian who's into genetic engineering. Just
what if he's the Terminator?
No, okay. But yeah, I think going through it all, you just start to see like how tough it is to find centers in this league, and it's only going to get worse when there's 2 more teams. So
that's
I'm
why
fine with
anyone who
drafting
suggests that we draft Porter
leaving...
Martone in our Discord is going to get banned immediately. Period.
Yep.
Like auto ban. Just don't say Martone in the Discord or you're fired. That's it. It's the new rule. Sorry, I'm going to shut off my mic now.
So we need a center. We got to address the size thing, but I don't know if we can get all these things done in one summer. We have so many bodies too, right? So, and it doesn't even necessarily need to be size. It needs to be just grit and playing with push. Now, some of that's going to come in a couple years from now with some of the prospects. So that is on our checklist. The center's on the checklist. We got the scoring wing and then potentially backup goalie. Obviously Connor Ingram's well-being is top of the list, but there is a scenario where we get to training camp and we can't even communicate with him, right? So we get to training camp. What if he can't go? And we don't have a backup goalie. So I have full confidence in Vejmelka, but I don't want to go more than 50 games with him. I want a solid goalie who can play and who can step in for when Vejmelka either gets hurt or he's playing a little bit down. I would like to address that this summer as well.
I kind of am in the same boat now. I don't like the musical chairs that happens with goaltending and goalies now. And if you get left out, it is a bad.
And that's an even thinner.
Colorado when they had to pay up for a first and a former first round prospect to land 1 year of Darcy Kemper. Granted, they won the cup, but that's what happens when you lose out on the musical chairs, and it's tough going into the season with so many question marks on Ingram, and honestly a little bit on Vejmelka. He had a phenomenal season, but we're going to need to see him do that again.
Goalie list for free agency. Jake Allen is all the ball. He's going to get a deal somewhere. I've seen his name connected to Edmonton, which kind of have to roll my eyes at that. Like that's your solution to win the Stanley Cup. You're going to bring in Jake Allen. I think he's a great goalie. I don't think you're going to win the Stanley Cup with him. Jake Allen, Samsonov, Georgiev, Alex Lyon, Anton Forsberg. Like this is not a very good. Dan Vladar, James Reimer. Outside of Jake Allen, I'm not really interested in any of these guys.
Lyon's not too bad for backup.
Yeah.
Problem with Allen is that he's kind of the belle of the ball.
Yeah. He's going to get $4 million.
Yeah, we just gave Vejmelka a big extension. So
if we're going to go big money for a backup, I would rather trade for someone younger who I'm not really too concerned about what's his name, the NCAA goalie, going back to school for 1 more year.
Rabble.
Yeah. I I fully believe that he will sign in a year from now, but I also understand the concerns that what if he doesn't? Now, if we trade for a younger goalie, I do think it makes sense to move him because he obviously at that point doesn't have a spot in the organization. So I don't know what his trade value would be. Maybe second, third round pick, something like that. I mean, he's a goalie, so it's not going to be too high. I mean, he's got some nice pedigree, he's got some good size, got some good results. But if you can move him, and it could even be in a separate deal, but if you're not going to get a goalie through free agency, you really have to go and find one through trade or for offer sheet. Now, I did see some people floating around the offer sheet idea for Joel Hofer, but I don't think the range that you could do it'd be like a second round pick for $4.5 million, something like that. And there's no reason for the Blues not to match that. So like, that's not
sure there is.
You think they would pass on that?
I don't necessarily think they want to have that much cap locked into 2 goaltenders. And if they're in the midst of a retool and they got problems everywhere.
Let's have a look.
Why wouldn't you give him $5 million and pay a first and a third for him?
Oh, I don't want to do a first.
Who cares?
Not for backup goalie.
It's a first 12 months from now in the 20s, dude. Like
it is, but I feel like if you're going to move your 2026 first, I would rather trade it for something other than a backup goalie, even a long range, potentially a starter. But yeah.
Well, here's the deal.
Bennington only has 2 years left as well.
You force them to match,
and
then they're in cap trouble, and they still have things they want to do. So then you low ball offer them for Braden Shen.
Hey, I kind of.
I think that was discussed pregame as well, was it not? Or yesterday? I heard that somewhere.
Yeah, I think I said it last night. I don't know. They're all blending together at this point.
So Bennington only has 2 years left. So Hofer is only 24. Very much still a succession plan in St. Louis. Now they do have Colton Ellis, really strong numbers in Springfield. Offer sheet calculator. So
how about Dylan Garand?
Yeah, we had the great article on him. Well, not great because I wrote it myself, so I'm not going to say that. But yeah, and I mean, he has no path in New York, right, behind Igor.
Yeah.
So, but I like Dylan Garand a lot, but I don't know if he's ready to be a 30-game backup just yet. I don't know. That's a tricky one because he hasn't even played an NHL game yet either. So I feel like it wasn't the rumor that we're looking for a established goalie, so he doesn't fit that definition. Compensation, by the way, is if you go between 4.7 and up to 7, be first and third round picks for Joel Hofer. I feel like you have to go.
Are you guys starting to think that securing a backup goalie may be our biggest priority right now in the offseason?
No, it's easy. It's easy.
Center.
The backup goalie is easy. You just call Carter Hutton. It's available. Anyone remember that?
Who was that random goalie that they took? Toronto signed him out of Europe, and then we scooped him off of waivers and pissed off Toronto.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Sweet.
Dubas lost his mind.
Yeah, for over some whatever goalie.
He was so pissed.
But then we sent them Carter Hutton, so...
Would Boston want to get out of Korpisalo?
Probably. What's he making? Like 4.5?
Yeah.
I liked his playoffs long ago Korpisalo's making 3. Oh.
No, 4. His cap hit is 4. Korpisalo.
I'm looking at cap wages. Is that maybe... It could be wrong, though, because they do have some...
Buck PD.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, they have this weird. They have cap hit is 3 and AAV is 4. I don't know what that means, but okay. I'm going to jump over to Puckpedia. Yeah, kind of like 4.5 is probably the most I want to do for a goalie. Surprisingly, we don't have that much cap space. We have $14 million. Probably put away 4.5, 5 of that for McBain. You're down to 9. If you can dump Michelli all the way, you can get up to about 13. But it is getting a little bit close to the number here.
Korpisalo's career averages are kind of funny. He's a 901 save percentage and a 305 goals against. It's just like the exact backup number. I mean, like those are precisely backup goalie numbers.
Who else has
exactly 90% saves, exactly 3 goals?
Anyone have 3 goalies?
Columbus may if they get Gibson.
Yeah. Well, they just traded goalie today, so
Tarasov.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that Columbus's plan, John Gibson? Who's got a goalie? Detroit has a whole bunch, but they're young.
Detroit has a bunch of crap.
Yes, that's true. You don't want Jack Campbell? I mean, you're very right on this topic that this is probably the area where expansion has hurt the most, right? Because the amount of just goalies who should be in the AHL but are in the NHL because there's an extra 4 seats now with Seattle and Vegas coming in and Atlanta right around the corner. Yeah. Who's got a goalie?
Bobby says Vanasek.
He is available.
Yeah,
now,
does he get shake? Yeah.
I don't know why he would stay with Florida just brought in another goalie,
Yeah,
right?
That's not a I mean, that's that like just throw something at it, get him and then see how
he was good in New Jersey. He sucked in San Jose, but so does everyone.
But I mean, yeah,
that's just a bad team.
I'd be fine with Vanacek. I mean, you're looking for a backup.
And that, you know what, that might be the perfect one because if Connor Ingram is good to go, you can easily sneak Vanacek down to the minors and he can play there
to some other team.
And if he gets scooped up on waivers or whatever.
Yeah.
But we do have
if you're him, like you look at this goaltending situation, you say, okay, I know Vamelka, I've followed his career because I'm a Czech and I've seen that he's been a roller coaster. I know that Connor Ingram, the team isn't even aware of his status. Like Bill Armstrong's been pretty candid that he has no idea what's going on. At least that's what he's claiming in the media. So if I'm Vanacek, I'm like, okay, this is a good team with a good blue line. Good, but unreliable, inconsistent goalies. Like it looks like a pretty good situation.
Oh, he's UFA. I thought he was still under contract.
No, he's UFA.
Oh,
isn't he? Vanacek is
UFA. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
So, and nobody's going to pay him like a starter, right? So he's struggled the last couple seasons. So if he wants to bet on himself and find himself in a good situation where he's not necessarily going to get iced out by starters playing too much, and like it's not like we have a hot goalie prospect coming in to challenge him and steal his job. It's a pretty good situation for him, man.
Just kind of average in Florida, but that's not necessarily
horrible
either. Yeah, if he is just Ingram insurance,
he just needs to be able to win some games.
Yeah, he just needs to be. Honestly, he just needs to be better than Jackson Stauber and Matt Villalta.
Mm-hmm.
So
agreed.
Yeah, and then we are in a situation, right? We are in a situation where we have Vamelka and Ingram and Vanacek and Villalta and Stauber. Someone can get sent to the ECHL, someone can get loaned somewhere else, someone can get traded, waived, sent to Europe, whatever.
Yeah, I like all these suggestions as well from Flo. Montreal has several. Alex Line, if he's UFA, CBGA, if they bring in a vet, somebody will get shook loose. But Vanacek is a nice. He will for sure be there if you bid early enough. Second position I would think is something that needs to be addressed now is right D. I mean, are we just thinking UFA solid third pairing guy, or swing a little higher and go for an Ekblad or?
I would like more than a DeSimone for sure. I liked DeSimone last year, but I don't want to watch him for 82 games. The thing is just with Mavlim, right? He probably needs one full uninterrupted year in Tucson, and he can do that next year. But John Marino still has 2 years left on this deal. So I think he's a succession plan there. So we can sneak Mavlim in the minors for one more year, but when you get into 2026, 27, going to be pushing for minutes. he probably needs to be more than a mix of Tucson and Utah at that point. Even like he can't be a 7th D. He's got to play. So if Marino had 1 year left, this would be perfect, but he's got 2.
Yeah.
So we're kind of stuck. But it does give a little bit more reality to those Ekblad rumors that Chef Merrick was talking about. So
here's some free agent names. Brent Burns. Not really.
No.
Orlov, but he's left. But does he play right at times too?
I'm not a big fan of his.
Ekblad.
Yeah.
Provorov, who I do believe plays both sides.
And we were rumored in on him in like November when everyone was getting injured.
I think he's going to get paid, though.
I kind of do too. But there's the Russian factor there too, which would be kind of nice. Lots of rumors like Gavrikov's either going back to CBJ or Rangers. I'm not even going to include him. Lindgren's left. Alec Martinez is almost as old as me. Dobson, Bouchard, Kandre, Miller, probably all in kind of the same boat of I don't think we would spend assets to try to acquire them. David Savard's kind of interesting.
I thought he retired. Yeah, I think he's retired.
He was playing in Montreal this year.
No. At the end of the season, I think he said he was done at the end of the playoffs. Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
nothing
boys.
to do with Cody Ceci.
No. I'm going to count on you guys to solve this problem. Just text me when you've got it figured out, okay?
We'll text BA too.
Hey, we'll see you at the draft. We'll see you at the draft tomorrow. We talked about who we wanted our pick to be. Do we want to do predictions real quick?
Of what?
For
what we think will likely happen?
No. Give us a name of a prospect you think they're going to pick at number 4. Most likely option stick and pick, right?
Desnoyers.
What are you thinking, Brad?
I'm thinking Martin.
Me too. I think they're going to pick Martin.
Yep.
Desnoyers is the guy I want.
Yep.
But I'm happy with O'Brien too.
You can't go wrong with any 3 of them, really.
I think
is there a do not draft your list at number 4, like within reason? Obviously
probably
not
Hagen's.
Porter Martone. Do not use this pick on a winger in a trade or in a stick and pick. Don't trade down and pick a winger because you got extra assets, unless that extra asset's a meaningful center solution for the long term. No more wingers.
I think there was some report that we talked to Merca, so I imagine if we were to trade down, it'd probably be on the Aitchison and Merca.
Do they play center?
Realm, but
they don't play center.
No, I know. I hear you. But at least there's a potential spot in the top 4 in a couple of years again. Now that the Kessler moved, but I hear you.
Centers only. All right, I'm gonna leave. I'm making this weird. I'm out of here.
Yes, Trent.
We got to figure out the Aaron Ekblad thing. So if you're looking at Florida's cap, they got $19 million. Marchand needs a new deal. Bennett needs a new deal, and Ekblad. And then they have some other fringe stuff. They need to sign Tarasov, but that's $1 million. Nate Schmidt probably gone. I think they can replace him internally for cheaper. Got to sign one more depth D. Thomas Nosek, Nico Sturm, Samoskevich needs a deal. That's going to be a decent chunk. They can probably only sign 2 of the big 3, though, right? Bennett, Marchand, and Ekblad. No, I think Bennett is apparently done. The rumor is 8x8. Rumor is it's kind of just in the drawer, waiting to announce all 3 at the same time. So it's just easier to get all the negotiations done. Marchand has been such a fit there. I think all 3 want to stay.
Oh yeah.
But ever since they brought in Seth Jones, that looked to me like the succession plan to Aaron Ekblad.
Yep. Yep.
And so I said 19 million.
They had no problem losing Montour.
Right?
I think it's going to be the same thing.
And OEL. So they had 19 million, put 5 aside for all the depth guys, backup goalies, Samoskevich. So you got 14 million left. Bennett's going to take 8. Does Marchand takes 6-ish. That's probably a little bit lower than what he could get on the open market, but seemed to really like it there. It clearly was a fit. He won. You can push that to about 7, but I don't think you're fitting Ekblad. I mean, even like Bissonnette's been saying he could take like $4 million to stay in Florida, but there's not even really room to do a hometown discount here, let alone the price he can command, which is probably upwards of $9 million. I don't want to do 7 years for Aaron Ekblad, but if it was a short-term deal, he's 29 years old. This is a player up until Paul Maurice got there. I liked him. Puck moving D, right shot, but always injured. Now, like since Paul Maurice got there, really reinvented him all around D. Just a big, nasty bastard. One of the most important Panthers the last 2 cup runs. Does he take, so he's 29, does he take 4 years times, I don't even know if this affects our cap long term, but 4 years times $9 million to come to Utah, give him $36 million, load it up with signing bonuses, front load the deal so it's easier to move long term. But where does that fit with us long term? When if you give him 4 years, you got Dursey, you have Marino, you got Mavlan pushing for a spot in, could be as early as this year, but it's probably a year away. So where does he fit then? Can you sneak Mavlam in the minors for 2 more years, or at least a year and a half, and then he's kind of playing spot duty, right? Or does he become a trade chip? Does John Marino get moved? But it is a void in our roster, right? When I look at, we do not have a number 1 right shot D. I like Marino, I like Dursey, but they're not that player. Aaron Ekblad is. So I'd be very interested in that. And if you can bring a top line player in, 2-time Stanley Cup winner, checks a lot of the boxes, I would be interested for sure. But that term, it's got to be under 4 years, I think. So
I don't think you could get him under 4 years.
I don't think you can either. I think Florida's going to make a pitch.
If you can get him under 5, if you can get him for 4 years, I think it could be worth the risk. But
Toronto is supposedly interested as well.
Good, let them have him.
I don't know what Toronto's going to do if they lose Tavares. I still think they're going to sign him, but if they use the Tavares money to sign Ekblad, I don't think they're necessarily a better team.
If they were to sign Ekblad, does somebody get shook loose?
There's been these Morgan Riley rumors, but he's got a full no move.
No,
so I don't see that happening.
I heard Carlo's name out there.
Yeah, I could. Well, they really just brought him in too. So.
I know.
Yeah, and I like Brandon Carlo. I would think Toronto's top priority. Like Mitch Marner's gone. Mitch Marner is 100 points are gone. Talk about whatever about his playoffs, but how are they going to replace those 100 points? How are they going to replace John Tavares' 70 if he leaves? Like that's 170 points out the door if those 2 leave.
Yep.
And you're going to replace them with Max Domi and Nick Ehlers? I don't know. That's a worse team.
What about this is the name I threw out last off season, Zach Whitecloud. If Vegas is trying to find a way to make some of this work, that gets them $3 million off of the cap. Now, there's the whole Petrangelo scheme of long-term IRM, and then
we'll just sign Ekblad and do our own little scheme in a couple of years from now.
Yep, damn true.
Yeah, I really like Nicholas Hague in Vegas, but he's a left shot. I could actually see him being the cap casualty because he is not under contract either. Yeah, and I mean that defense is, even if you take out Petro, they still got Theodore, they still got Hannafin. Like, okay, we lost our number 1 defenseman, we still have 2 others. Brady McNabb, Whitecloud, Ben Hutton, Caden Korgs, like that's pretty solid 1 through 6. Yep. And potentially Nick Hagen there, depending on what they decide to do here. So
yeah, I think my shopping list for this offseason, is a bottom pair, right D. Preferably one that can hop up into the top 4 if necessary.
Like Kesselring.
I think that's going to be a lot harder than we expect. Or backup goaltender seems like it's much more needed than I'd like to admit.
Not
I
really.
I honestly think I'm fine with the forward group as is.
Need a center. That's top of my list by a pretty good margin, even more so than the backup goalie.
The center, or
yeah,
right?
Center. No, I think the wing thing is addressed. I don't think we can address the size thing this summer. But yeah, center and goalie is my. Even if the goalie thing doesn't happen, we'll see what happens with Ingram. But the center thing, in my mind, it's such a need for this team. Reports now, this has not happened yet, but reports connecting. As much as I just said, he's probably a PTO candidate. Reports connecting Vancouver to both Nick Bjugstad and Michael Carcone, who actually played for Vancouver before. So, Vancouver scooping up our scraps.
Oh no, man,
Vancouver might be content. Maybe it's something in the Pacific Ocean because they're like Seattle. They're just aimless, shooting for 9th.
Yep.
I don't like what's going on in Seattle at all. The Marchman edition was. I didn't really understand it at first, but then they made the secondary move with Burakovsky, so then it made sense. But then, they make the other trade today was Goudreau, right?
Goudreau.
Yeah, which I like him, but that same player is available in free agency in a week for just cash. You can keep your 4th round pick. But yeah, Vancouver bringing in potentially Nick Bjugstad and Michael Carcone.
Man,
that used to be us. That was us dumpster diving. So I'm glad we are past that phase.
Yep.
Yeah. We bring in JJ Peterka. You know what? I was looking at the offseason tracker so far, and I mean, the offseason has barely begun. Dollar value, we have made the biggest move of any team. We spent $38 million on JJ Peterka. The next highest was like $14 million with Zetterlund in Ottawa. So we have made the biggest move of the offseason, at least from a dollar perspective.
There you go.
Yeah.
Utah Mammoth #1.
Yep.
All right. Well, I don't know where the time went, but we're in a movie length of a podcast today. Any other kind of final thoughts that you have?
No, just under 24 hours to the draft now. I do think we're going to use the pick. I just keep coming back to BA is still, he's very much a general manager, but he is a scout at heart to have an opportunity to pick 4th. He's picked that high twice before. He got Logan Cooley at number 3. He got, speaking of Alex Pietrangelo, he got him at number 4. You're going to get a very top flight player in that spot tomorrow. Who knows if we see another trade? I'm going to keep talking about Marco Rossi until he's moved one way or another. They are coming up to a pressure point here with July 1st and his restricted free agency. He is a trade chip very much for Minnesota. He was rumored to Buffalo in the Peterka trade. Reports today that they do not want to go higher than $6 million on a deal for Rossi long term. Don't think that's going to happen. Still expect him to be traded. Don't know if he's a fit for us now. We just brought in, I know Peterka plays with some rumble to his game, but he is still 6 feet at the end of the day, and Marco Rossi is 5'9", so I don't know how much sense it makes to bring in 2 smaller-ish players, but until he's moved out of Minnesota, I'm going to keep the hope alive.
Well, light a candle.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, I made an hour and a half without talking about him, so.
Yeah, I know. Good for you. Good for you. Well, I'm sure we'll have some more coverage probably this weekend to kind of talk about the draft, the kids that we pick. Maybe if something big happens, we'll have another emergency podcast as well. So make sure you're subscribed to Clean Hits Hockey. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and guess what? We got loads of really, really cool merch. You can find all of our shirt designs at shop.cleanhitshockey.com. You can join the Mammoth Club. You can get some of our designs with players who are, yes, still on the roster, like our Clayton Keller Mr. Versatility shirt, the Elite Sergachev shirt, or get the classic, the Dylan Gunther Costco shirt. And then, of course, we do have the Cult of General Manager Bill Armstrong shirt, which, again, I've heard the more people wearing this shirt the day of free agency, the better the pickups are. So you will want that before free agency begins. And again, you can get all those designs at shop.cleanhitshockey.com. It's a great way to support the podcast, keep the lights on. I can't wait for tomorrow. It is like Christmas Eve. I am not going to be able to sleep. I actually had a draft dream last night. And it was really, really unnerving because we drafted the guy I could not remember who we drafted out of all of them. I was like, it wasn't Desnoyers, it wasn't Martin, it wasn't O'Brien. Who was it again? And it was clearly some like imaginary fake guy, but I couldn't even put the name to the player that we drafted. So hopefully that's not the case, and we don't do anything weird, and we get a upcoming 2C to solve our 2C potential problem down the future, so we don't need to hear anything else about Marco Rossi.
Exactly. No, it should be a good time. Even if it's even if it's not us making moves, just to see other moves happening, it's always kind of cool. We'll see. Lots of rumors. We'll see if it actually turns into moves. But yeah, under 24 hours now. No more mock drafts, no more rankings. It's time to go here.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We will catch you next time. Adios.
We know we running it now. Watch the game change.